There is such thing as bad Botox though, like real bad Botox, and that could be, that can happen if you see a provider who is not actually a licensed medical provider, right? So you got bad Botox. What now? Can it be fixed? What even causes it? Is there really even such thing as bad Botox? Well, I'm Jen Bullock and I'm the nurse practitioner here at Illume in Ashland, and I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about bad Botox. First and foremost, when people come in to see me, some of the things that I hear them report to me as they're complaining about previous Botox experiences are things like Botox that was uneven, some bruising that occurred after treatment, Botox that felt really heavy and felt like they got too much, some asymmetry in the brows, right? So one brow looks different than another, heavy brows, droopy lids, Botox that caused a headache. You know, the thing is that these are actually normal and expected side effects with Botox injections. So here's the thing. It may not be that you got bad Botox, you may be experiencing one of the expected side effects of Botox injections. Now, does this happen to everyone every time? Absolutely not. Does it mean that your last injector was a bad injector or didn't know what they were doing? Heck no, it can happen to anyone. And as an injector, we know that if a certain percentage of people are going to experience some of these side effects, first of all, we want to prepare you for it. That's what the informed consent is all about. We will tell you things like, hey, anytime we break the skin with a needle, there's a risk for a bruise. If you're someone who would be really upset by getting a bruise, we probably shouldn't put needles in your face, right? Sometimes people can get a headache. That can be upsetting, but it is just a headache and it'll go away after some time. Drink some water, take some Tylenol. The other thing is that when Botox feels really heavy, sometimes that's just the way it feels setting in. It doesn't mean you had too much Botox, and it doesn't mean it was placed wrong. It just means that that's how it feels as it kicks in. You won't experience it every time. Sometimes you experience it, sometimes you feel nothing at all. I've been getting Botox for six years now, and for me, I've experienced that really heavy sensation twice. And when I felt it, I was like, whoa, this is what they're talking about. Nothing different from my injections. Same injector, same scenario, same neuromodulator. It's just what happens sometimes. And it can feel scary if you don't know that that is what's going to happen. But it doesn't mean that the Botox experience went how it's not supposed to. It's just how it happens sometimes. Sometimes there can be asymmetry, right? At my office, if you have Botox that's placed and something's still funky, we want you to come back. I probably do, 50 or 60 Botox injections, appointments a week, and I'll see one, maybe two back, right? It's expected that sometimes we'll have to touch people up. If there is, somebody who comes in and their Botox doesn't fully set in, or maybe they got an infection or something ended up asymmetrical, a lot of times it has to do with something that happens outside of the clinic, right? So we poke little holes in your forehead when we're putting the Botox in there. If you were to touch it absentmindedly or put makeup over the top or wear a hat or something along those lines, sometimes you can get bacteria into those areas. That's why we tell you when you go home, please don't, wear makeup, no exercising, don't put a hat on, nothing like that, because we want the Botox to stay right where we put it. We don't want any bacteria to get into those little holes, and we don't want anything to end up asymmetrical. Sometimes, every once in a while, I'll have somebody who'll be like, my Botox didn't set in. Well, if it didn't set in, you gotta come back. We're gonna take care of that for you. But things that can impact that are under treating, which we don't do in my office, but we treat by prescription. So what is recommended from the manufacturer. The other thing is you're not supposed to like get aggressive and wash in your face and like massage the area or do anything that might move the Botox out of the area that we placed it. And even if sometimes we do everything right, occasionally there's just interesting stuff like migration that happens that we aren't even really sure kind of how that happens. Doesn't mean that there was something that was done incorrectly or wrong. It just happens to be that there's some small risk with any procedure, right? And it's not any different than the aesthetics procedure. So it may not be that you've had bad Botox. It could be that you're experiencing, one of the expected but very rarely experienced side effects. Or it could be something happened after injection. But if you've got a good qualified injector, they can help you through that process. The worst case scenario with like Botox would be like if you got it into the nerve that opens and closes that lid, right? You see like social media videos and things like that where celebrities, or social media influencers will post something about a funky experience and have like a droopy lid. That would be like super uncool, but probably had nothing to do with the placement of the injection, because anybody who's a good injector knows not to inject anywhere near this little nerve, right? So something usually happens afterwards that would allow that migration there. You want a provider that knows how to counteract any of these side effects if they're bothersome and respond appropriately. There is such thing as bad Botox though, like real bad Botox, and that could be, that can happen if you see a provider who is not actually a licensed medical provider, right? There is lots of people out there these days that can get, counterfeit or stuff from other countries, and they're placing them and they really don't understand anatomy. And they don't know how to respond if something, uncool happens. There is fake neuromodulators out there. And there have been cases where, people have stuff injected at parties or something by somebody who's not licensed, and they've gotten really scary outcomes. So the way to avoid that sort of stuff is to A, see somebody who's qualified. B, if you have an issue with your injections or you're not happy, go back to your injector that saw you to begin with and tell them. At my office, we provide complimentary follow-up. So if you need something adjusted, we just take care of it for you. And, I think that should be kind of the rule across the board for all injectors. So hopefully that answered some of your questions. And if you have anything else, anything that you're wondering about or a story to tell, I would love to hear that in the comments. I'm Jen Bullock, and as always, stay fabulous till next time.